Welcome, everybody, to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Below me here, as usual, is she might have had a concussion or two a couple times in her life, is Britt. How are you, Britt?
Good.
Very good. We have a very special guest today here off to, at least how I see it, he's at my right. We keep him on a leash until the neighbors come onto the lawn. It's Bill. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good. Just glad to be on. Thanks again for the invite. Appreciate it.
Very good. See, you already got a big old fan section going on. People are saying, "Hey, Bill." See,
Pablo, how you doing, man?
We call him the drill sergeant for a reason, so we're excited to have him. Okay, well, a lot of people are probably on their Super Bowl hangover, just looking to have some kind of sports to cling on to. So if you're looking for anything as far as Denver Broncos, Colorado Avalanche, and more, you can follow us at the MHRT Network. You can subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, so you can get notified when shows such as the Cluster Puck Podcast, Broncos Breakdown, such as what Bill hosts when they go live. If you like just the show, Bill, no offense to you, of course,
it's all good.
You can follow us individually here at the Cluster Puck Podcast, Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter and Instagram, and then the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook. Okay, we'll get right into it. Very rocky last week here, but to say the least. So let's go ahead. We'll get the emotions out of the way now, man. To say the least, bumpy at best. A lot of heartache, a lot of disappointment, and filled with kind of a finally feeling. Bill, what was your take on this week for the 3 games that we faced?
Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. The first 2 games. Now, I will give credit where credit's due, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the first game against Pittsburgh, we had that. We had the lead 1-0. We had that game, and then all of a sudden, a shoulder. Was it a foul? I think it was, but or a penalty, I should say. They said no. McCarr takes a shot to the head. His head spins like this. In football, that would be a face mask.
Right.
Why in hockey is not a penalty? Okay, I don't care whether it was intentional or not. You put a stick between a guy's legs because you're trying to get the puck, and it becomes tripping. Why in heaven's name was this not a penalty? Absolutely.
Yep.
And then going to game 2 against Tampa Bay. Okay, credit where credit's due. Vasilevsky was absolutely out of his mind great on that game. But, and I say a huge but, the Avalanche, I mean, their defense wasn't there. And I'm not sure if something got into their head or I just don't know what it was. And I equate it to this. The Avalanche is not the Avalanche team that was last year. We have so many injuries. We have players that aren't there anymore. And we have a brand new goaltender. And I'm sorry, Britt, but I am not 100% sold on Georgiev. I'm not. It seems like he's up and down, and down. He's not the stable guy we had in Kemper. And I know Kemper wasn't, Patrick Waugh, but at least he seemed to be steady. Georgiev isn't. And now I find out today that we don't have Francouz. And now we've called up Johansson.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this team's in trouble. However, going into game 3 against Florida, that team seemed to look desperate, and they played desperate, and they played hard, and they won that game 5-3. Even though it was scary, 2-0, we had the lead. I'm thinking, oh, this is great. All of a sudden, 2-2. I'm like, here we go again.
It was about time we saw them rally.
Absolutely. Now, my question is this. I think I've done the math or whatever, or tried to. According to my Dungus, I don't do math too well. But, I believe there's 16 games left or 18, something like that. And we, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that the Avalanche have to win at least half of those games. And we have a very, very tough schedule in the month of March. That's going to be the hardest month of this entire season. And we have to take at least 8 wins. We have to get 16 points, guys.
Bill, are you saying just for this month and next month there's 18?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the entire. No.
Yeah, because that's what.
Okay, because I was like, end of the season, I think we got like
we need to
30
win
left.
about 25 which now after those games, we need to win about 22 of the rest of the season. And
But
apparently
I was equating that to the month of March.
for this month, we're just tie. And you couldn't make a more idiotic schedule if you tried, but we can't whine about it because it's not going to change about it. They need to win games this month, and we're lucky that the end of April it does get progressively easier, but every game counts more and more, especially when you're dropping bombs like that Tampa game and taking home a single point against the Penguins. Those are games that we got to be winning, because if we can't get healthy, it's never going to get easier. Even if we are playing Anaheim and the Blackhawks and the Coyotes, if we can't beat other wild card teams relatively healthy, then it's all irrelevant at this point.
I looked at the schedule, and I believe that in the next 16 games, we're playing at least 10, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 12 that are above us in the overall standings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not going to be a cakewalk, guys. It's not going to be a cakewalk.
And we
the
need to now, because there's no sense in making the playoffs if we can't beat them in the playoffs either. I mean, there's just no. It's not like it's going to get easier after we beat them in the regular season, especially if we can't score 5-on-5.
Exactly.
Well, and the biggest reason from that is you got the target on your back, and it just kind of seems like this squad doesn't quite recognize that right now. You know, it's just they just kind of like what you said with even Georgiev. It seems like the team as a whole, they go hot, they go really cold, they go hot, they get really cold.
It's
and it's just like they don't quite realize that every team will come out and give them their best shot day in and day out because of that tier that they're on. They are king of the hill. Right. It's not like, like teams facing Columbus right now, for example. I think they're last in the league as it stands. One of those two teams, them or Anaheim. But they'll come at you with a different mentality. They play up big time.
Well, and all these teams are dealing with injury issues also. We're not the only team with an injured captain or an injured all-star. We can't just roll over and die every time one of our big guys goes out. It's got to be motivated.
And that was just it, just kind of looking at that Pittsburgh game. We scored one. Now, granted, Casey DeSmith was playing out of his freaking mind in that game, but we still were able to net one. And it seemed like if you at least were able to play smart, play good, a 1-0 game is kind of the direction it was heading. And you're thinking, great, I guess for me, I wasn't quite comfortable until we had 2 or more, or should we attain 2 or more, I should say. Right. But you were still kind of like, at least at the very end of this, overtime means you at least get the point against a very good Pittsburgh team with a wildly good Casey DeSmith. Right. Well, unfortunately, a lapse happens, and that's all that Pittsburgh team needed.
Yeah.
And boom, tie game with minutes left. And they win it in overtime in just a bizarre fashion. So many shots ring off the post for us. It's just not fair how big a goalie's box or the net is. I wish it were like just 2 inches bigger and maybe 2 to 4 inches taller.
If we can mentally conquer that and chalk it up to rust from injured players being back, traveling all-star weekend, blah, blah, blah. Even though they had just as many, people traveling, just as many all-stars, they've been struggling with injuries too. They don't even have their starting goalie. But then we move on to Tampa, and there is no excuse. I get that Vasilevsky is good, but honestly, people are so mad about it being 5-0, and it's like, we can't win a game 0-0. So at the end, none of this matters. I get momentum. I get feeding off your goalie playing good, but there's just no excuse for Tampa and how that went. We have to be able to win a game against Makar, and Tampa's whole gig is we don't give a shit about the regular season. They obviously this game had a lot more mentally for them, but they're not putting their best foot forward and putting all of their value in the regular season. We should be able to beat them, or at least not get shut out. And then that, on top of that, how the actual game went, listening to the ESPN broadcast made me I was
you mean the second Tampa broadcast?
So you mean I'm not the only person that thought that?
Yeah, they would have loved if they had Braden Point, don't you know?
I mean, they already had Tampa Bay anointed as the Stanley Cup champions.
Oh, yeah. And you would have thought, I don't know if they even wrote down a single decent thing to say about the Avs. It was unreal.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I guess luckily right now, after Tampa game, which I'm trying to write that off in my brain, but it's hard to for me say that wasn't the worst game the Avalanche have played this season. I would say it's between that game, that Tampa game, or that Winnipeg game.
Right.
Boston, I am kind of dismissing a little given injuries and stuff like that, but those two. But I want to say at this point in time where you should be, I think that is the worst game that the Avalanche played.
Yeah. I mean, where was their push? They should have had a mental need to win this game also.
They had
better away with Tampa.
Exactly. Well, because the last time they were in that arena, they were hoisting a silver cup called the Stanley Cup. And it's like there was just no want to even participate in the game, you know. And it was on national television. It was a massive letdown. Very disappointing.
Worst case scenario for how that game.
It literally was, and you're facing your worst nightmares in that game because there was no drive to be there. And I even made a mention of it after the game on the final score post that I did. I said clearly the team didn't show up. Right. I had an entire section just saying like they were playing like Pee Wee middle school game. You know, that's the team that showed up. The rest of them were in Sunrise, but it just.
Well, if we can't win without Makar, if we can't go 6 games without Makar without just falling apart, then you're not a Stanley Cup team. I mean, we got to be able to lose big names and not just crumble.
Well, speaking of big names and Cale Makar. And we also don't have Manson. Why in heaven's name did we let go of Hunt today? I heard that. What is
waivers, and
the good news is he cleared waivers.
Yes, so he's probably coming right back up. Which
we dodged a bullet there.
He won't have to clear waivers for another 30 days, I believe it is now. Basically, they needed to get him back down to the Eagles, and unfortunately, he had to go through the waiver process. And I feel fortunate that he wasn't picked up because
I thought for sure he would have been given how well he was playing.
Right, because he had gone down before and not been claimed, but he's also been playing very well. And you think that there's a couple teams that for a little bit of depth, that would have been perfect. And I tell you, the only thing harder than running the Colorado Avalanche right now has to be the Eagles, because they're just like, for God's sake,
give us our players back
and trading them. And that's what he was supposed to be at the All-Star game for the AHL. But
well, the good news is with that Eagle squad, though, it's like they send them off to the Avalanche as boys and they come back as men. You know?
Well, that's true.
He's John-Luc Foudy. But yeah, it would have been a very and what I don't understand, and I haven't seen it before, and maybe I'm just spacing, but it was weird that he played that night while he was on waivers. I didn't know that.
I've never seen that before.
While you were on waivers.
But I totally agree with what you say, Bill. I'm not quite ready to see him go back down. I would have liked to see Manson just kind of fully practice for another week.
Well, and Manson's not even supposed to be back for a couple days, so I don't understand.
Yeah, so it's like I also agree it was very premature. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what now they're saying that Manson's practicing in a full jersey, which I feel like we've been getting jersey updates. I don't know if they have like 69 different jerseys that they have to go through.
It's crazy.
But now supposedly he's full-time practice, but still not supposed to be back tomorrow.
Oh, by the way, we have a game tomorrow at Ball Arena in Denver against Tampa Bay. Why in heaven's name is Hunt not going to be there? I'm frustrated.
Crazy.
I would think he has to be pulled back up and be on the team for tomorrow without Manson.
And well, maybe that was a move that they were trying to do, is just have him clear waivers so he's got a 30-day. They can send him back down to the AHL. So you might as well have taken the risk right now instead of.
Yeah, but that was a catastrophic. That could have been catastrophic risk.
Yeah, so you'd think that you want to know
if he got picked up. Yeah, it would have been really dangerous because who are you going to bring back? You traded away Jacob McDonald.
Right. Well, and we did have. I mean, we've had our people getting picked up off waivers. We've lost
because we developed them good enough, and they'll get swiped. Yeah. So, but Bill, I totally agree with that. But yeah, back to that Tampa game. It's just the following game. How you follow that up was going to be a big telltale sign of what your season is going to be, and at the end of April or thereabouts. And luckily they follow that up with a 5-3 win, thanks to an empty netter, which, given how we have been with letting teams come back, I was quite surprised.
I was extremely nervous until that.
It was very nerve-wracking.
It's hard to dig deeper and find the semi-casual fans are really struggling to find a place where they have any hope, because you've got, somewhat dedicated fans ready to just call the season a wash and just work on health for next year.
Yep. And we got a question here. Let me see if I can find it again. But I believe this one came from Pablo. Yep, right here. And he just asks what place the Avalanche are in. And that's just it. We are still at a point, even after the overtime loss to Pittsburgh, we don't want to talk about it, to Tampa Bay, and the win against Florida. We are still third in the division.
Yes.
No wild
Minnesota's right on our heels, man.
But that's it. You can't afford these types of games.
Right.
Even though they're not even in your conference, they are still points that can count for you. They're not 4-point sways like in a division or anything, but it's every game counts, right? That's the big thing is you can't just sit there and take games to figure out what's going on. You have to change in game, minute to minute, change what you're doing, So as it sits, we are still okay, but there are teams that look a lot hungrier and a lot more put together right now than the Avalanche. And that's what
there's definitely a big mutual sigh of thank God as Minnesota fans and Avalanche fans looked at the other scoreboards and they're like, we're all losing tonight. Everything just stays stagnant, but it does matter beyond our division also. So
you guys, what do you think is the main cause for the Avalanche having this big of a fall? I know there's a target on their back, but putting that aside, is it coaching? Is it players we lost? And more importantly, is it lack of chemistry because the players that are not in those key lines 1, 2, and 3, as well as defense, are either injured or have been or on other teams?
I truly think it's a culmination of all of them. I think a lot of it comes down to having to play with so many amateur players at any given point that don't understand the true tenacity that it takes. And I know that these are all the best hockey players in the world, and the level from the AHL to the NHL might not look a lot different to the naked eye, but truly the mental IQ from the AHL to the NHL. And you can see that stuff when you look at people like Jacob McDonald, who have NHL skating capabilities, people with NHL shooting capabilities. Like you've got Jean-Luc Foudy, who can shoot like an NHL player, but there are these minute differences add up to big costs in a game when it takes a certain amount of time playing on a team with a bit of steadiness and chemistry. And that, in addition to a constant changing of lines that are throwing off even some of our more tenured younger players like Newhook, simply cannot find a place within this lineup. And that's where people like Helm, they do help, even if they're not a huge drastic difference in the lineup on the ice. They're those people that help give that veteran mentality. And we're just lacking so much in so many areas that not one thing is going to fix it. And it's, I do believe that Gabe being gone is also a big mental factor. I love McKinnon. Obviously, I have an 8-year-old named McKinnon. So I have all the faith in the world in him, but there's something to be said for Gabe's leadership and his general presence and the way he leads on the ice and off the ice that is missing. Though I don't think it's the biggest factor. I think it's a factor. And I think the uncertainty of this season for them and us is just exhausting.
What do you think, Nick?
And I would agree. I honestly think it's one domino hits another, and it kind of creates a chain effect. So, like, for example, the fact that we have been just plagued with injuries equals we can't get a team chemistry because everyone's keep going up and down, up and down. You can't get a solidified group to actually play well together, which that leads to bad goaltending, leads to bad defense. Just all a culmination of everything. And then on top of that, you have every team wanting to beat you, playing their best game with all these veterans that know what they're doing versus these up and comings that they're just trying to find a place not to make mistakes, but it ends up, they're not really helping. And then just, I don't know. I think right now it's kind of like I said, a domino effect where it is everything all at once because, one guy pushes one domino and the rest of them just fall.
Right. And you'll see us playing 50 good minutes a game, but you see these teams capitalizing on every 5-minute laps. These teams are smashing a whole game's worth of victory within a a period worth of mistakes when it comes down to those are the lines that are lacking what it takes.
Well, and if you look at it too, it seems like with the Avalanche as of late, when they have had a lead, they have had a very tough time maintaining it.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, Bill, like that Florida game, we're up 2-0. And Florida just up and within like a minute or so.
I think there was a penalty involved in there too, and that gave them a spark.
Exactly, right. And that's that. It seems like that's all other teams need. As soon as they get a momentum shift, they can basically kind of start firing at will. And in the case of this recent Florida game, they just tied it up within a minute. You know?
If there's absolutely anything to be taken out of the last 3 games, it was seeing them take that game back within, what did Tays score, 30 seconds following that second goal.
Yeah, it's killing momentum fast.
The game back because we have not had that fire in us, and it's depressing when you look back at last year. They had so much drive, and we see McKinnon go out there, and he looks like he's just controlling the game, but we haven't seen that. And so that to me is the prime positive to take from these last 3 games, is seeing us actually come back and fight, even when we're, down and we appear to be losing the game, but we finally took it back.
Yep. And that's the big thing, I think, Bill, and I'll bounce this question back over to you, but where do you see the struggles right now on the team? Was it injuries? Was it just poor defense and goalie play? Is it just a culmination of everything? What do you think it is?
I'd have to agree with both of you. It is a culmination of everything. But the other thing that I see that really bothers me is the lack of urgency, the lack of intensity, the drive to say we want to win this cup. They won it last year. They know what it feels like. And what kind of scares me is that feeling not there again, because they still remember what it was like last year. Do they have the drive to say we need to win this cup? Like McKinnon, his drive last several years was to win the cup because he never had tasted that. Now that he has, is it too much to ask to say let's do it again? Or have you lost that feeling? So I think it's a culmination of things, but I also think I wonder where that intensity, that drive, and that energy to let's get that cup.
Which on the plus side, Tampa's been doing the same thing for a couple of years. People have said, I think Tampa, I think they're done. I think they're too old. They're too washed up, because they've struggled mightily throughout the regular season. So pray to God that we can find it again. If we Kucherov, Landeskog, he shows up and then destroys the playoffs, I mean, nice. I guess we can all put our foot in our mouth. And
that's a good question. Is that the route the Avalanche are going to take?
Especially at this point, if EJ has a lingering injury that we don't know will be prepared for playoffs, I say we put him on LTR and go shopping, because we don't have time to dick around with this stuff any longer. We are running out of runway that even if we do make the playoffs, we are not going to be able to do anything with it if we go into half injured still, especially with EJ. I mean, frankly, he probably should have retired last year, and I love him. I adore him with every ounce of my being, but
he would have given us some $6 million in cap space availability.
We're paying him, we could be bringing in, something desperately needed, especially with the way things are going on our defense right now. And just, we need to pray to God that it sounds like Makar does have a concussion. So we'll see how long. It sounds like he's out for tomorrow.
I figured with that hit to his jaw that turned his head around, I figured that was pretty significant.
I still don't agree with that call. There's been a lot of calls, it seems, as of late, that just either there was a soft call against the Avalanche or just no call for the Avalanche that really probably could have swayed a good number of these games. So it's not like we're trying to give the refs a free pass, but
I'm sure you guys saw that statistic that the Avs have lost like the last 9 games with this head ref, which just doesn't seem coincidental. It seems like statistically that just is very bizarre. But
we're not throwing out accusations, of course, but the
wait a minute. I'm on the show. I'll throw.
But so we expect people to have full control over their stick, which is an extension of their body that they simply have to hold and stick in things, but we don't have to have complete control of our bodies. Like, okay.
Right.
It wasn't everybody saying that Cale moved into his path, but Cale was skating through a 2-foot slot. It's not like he made some big drastic cut. He didn't change, and Carter has to be in control of his body. And I feel like that's just a given.
Right.
The only thing in that replay where I would completely disagree with the NHLPA, with all the announcers, everything like that, is even though at the time of contact, his head was toward the puck, there is one replay that shows he saw where Makar was before then turning and checking into him like that. Right. And they're just like, yeah, he was just playing, his face was toward the puck. I'm like, I can't buy off on that.
Right. And
that was a check to the head that even though it wasn't penalized, should at least have gotten the maximum fine.
A fine. Yep. And that's what the absolute priority, especially, and I know that some people hate to hear it, but we need to protect our all-stars and we need to protect our heads. That should be the number one priority, is concussions. And I know that Mr. Bettman says that concussions are not linked to long-term bad effects, but
sure,
clients would like to differ.
What about CTE?
Yeah.
Talk to Bo Byram, talk to Sidney Crosby. I mean,
and I know people are against it, but I'm willing to see the game change a little bit to protect their long-term health.
So what would you do? How do you stop? I guess it's kind of like in football too. How do you? In football,
repercussions.
Yeah, what do you do?
These guys are considering it because they know that there will be drastic repercussions, and until they can figure out how to change their game and get big fines or suspensions, whatever it be, eventually they'll figure out how to not do it.
Would you eliminate checks into the boards? I mean, the hard checks where,
nope,
where the player has the puck and just slams the guy right in the board.
No, most head stuff is coming from open ice hits. A lot, at least I would imagine. This is my non-scientific, but as somebody who's played for a long time, many of them are coming from open ice stuff, and a lot of it comes down to having your heads down, and that's something that also that needs to be focused on also. But the way I see it is I would prefer a league where players can play and do incredible things and maybe put their head down for a second and not have Jacob Trouba absolutely destroy them.
Yeah, good point.
Allie, shut it off. She's talking about Trouba again.
Well, generally the argument comes to where the point of contact is the chest or the head. And you can always argue that it starts in the chest or the collarbone area and goes to the head. And they need to push to where it's a lower point of contact. So I just think a lot of it comes down to the initial point of contact needs to not be questionable about the head. And if they keep pushing this hard enough, finding hard enough, suspending hard enough, eventually these guys will make the point of contact always down here and not even make it down here. And it is a harder struggle with shorter guys being able to make it in the NHL at this point. It's a more short guy friendly game, which is
that's why I chose not to make it to the show.
That's same.
Me and my short self.
But they need to punish it until it's so ingrained in their heads that it's not worth it to push it, because I just value long term.
But doesn't that then cause more lower body injuries? Which obviously, if you don't have your feet in hockey, then you're not going to be playing.
You recover from lower body injuries. You don't. It's not a knee, misunderstood injury that you can't. The thing is, the brain stuff is just so much more important.
Right. True.
I would rather retire with a bad back than a brain that you might eventually end up committing suicide or have continued. No, I just and I don't have the right answer, but I also don't get paid millions of dollars. If paying millions of dollars, I will.
Are you sure?
No, you guys do not pay me enough.
I swore you did.
Figure out. But and I know that some people are like, it's soft, blah, blah, blah. But I just think that there's a fine line between letting the game evolve into a more athletic, the beauty of these evolving, the stick handling and stuff. And there is some sacrifice in the hard hits. But let me tell you, I love a good hard hit. I love a good check. I love a good fight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, speaking of fight, did you see the Avalanche fight the other night?
Yes.
Was that against Tampa Bay or Florida?
There was a fight with Florida.
England
and Lundell. Yeah, they squared off.
Oh, that was
That's
great.
what I keep saying. The fighters just keep getting prettier and prettier. It's so bizarre. It's a very different world that we're living in. All of our handsome, I think McDermott and England might be two of the most handsome guys on the team.
Oh my gosh.
He's throwing himself out there.
That's why I don't fight too. Look at this.
That's now I get it, Brent. You love to see the fight because you want to see the pretty guys with their helmet off.
Oh, for sure. That's what
the real reason she's against checks to the head is to keep the pretty faces intact.
There you go.
That's the secret right there. We
that's
cracked
the
her.
mom and me, knowing that their parents probably paid $10,000 for braces at some point. My mom watched my little brother fight after he just got his braces off like 2 weeks ago and just reeling in the stands. My mom's like,
oh, there you go.
So yeah, no, it's England is. I mean, he's pretty much proven that he's fearless. I mean, he doesn't care.
He's a McDermott Jr. Yep.
Yeah.
So okay, before we get into this week's upcoming games, there is one question posed by a one Allie Bixel, aka my wife. There's some trade rumors going around. Now we did discuss with the Landeskog going LTIR or something like that. This could be a possibility. I want to get your thoughts specifically about Jonathan Toews. Now that Horvat's, that whole thing's out of the way, do we end up getting the Blackhawks centerman? Or do we try to make a run for him? We'll talk about this.
To give up?
Here's what I would probably do. And I am playing armchair GM. I know nothing of dealing with money and stuff like that. I am an architect by profession, okay? So the Blackhawks would have to retain salary. I feel like that's a given.
Right.
The question is, who do you trade and or who do you give up? I think right now the Blackhawks probably will not be asking for too much in return, but because they are retaining salary, that bumps it up to a mid-tier player.
Right. They've said that they'll retain 50%.
They said that they will retain up to 50. So my question, or my, I guess, proposal, which again, just this is off the hip fire. I would propose a trade to the Blackhawks to get Jonathan Toews. In return, we send JT Compher and a 3rd round pick.
Ooh, where'd that come from, Nick?
The
Compher? Yeah, I was gonna say Compher. Seriously?
Would you assume
our best
face-off
guy right now?
It could be. So the only other player I could think about maybe dealing away, and again, is it's just off the hip fire. It would either be Darren Helm or but I don't know if they'd take him. So it might be Helm and Mulligan. We probably shoot back to him. So maybe 2. But I think Compher seems to be a bit more of the shiny piece. I'm not happy to say that, but that's probably
I'm not happy to hear it right now either.
That's kind of where I think Chicago would go. I could be completely wrong though.
I don't think that Chicago is going to take anything less than our 1st round pick in 2024. And
so do you think they'll just take a pick?
Along with, I think that for a 1st round pick, I think they would do it.
Would you do it?
Is there will probably have to be a 3rd team involved with a sweetener. So to get that salary cap, them retaining half and then possibly another team retaining half of that. So it puts us down to like less than a $3 million cap hit.
Because he's going to just be a rental.
But if EJ is LTIR, we probably could consume that entire 5.25 cap hit should they retain 50, and we may be able to go for that 1st draft pick. But the thing is with Compher, so he's on an expiring contract this year. We're probably going to lose him next year. But I am curious, and I don't know where tampering laws come in, if it's like a sign and trade or a trade with an understanding of a signing. But also, I don't know Compher's probably he's going to be gone next year. Somebody's going to give him 5. And I don't know if the Blackhawks would be willing to give him 5. Some is 4, 5-ish. But it just sucks because we don't have a whole lot to offer. And also, if EJ is injured, and we've got one big move to make, do we do it for the 2nd line center, or are we getting tightened up on defense too? Do we roll in trusting Hunt in England as
okay?
Well, and you also have to remember with the addition of Matt Nieto, who has been playing phenomenally, might I add.
Yes.
Is that even is Jonathan Toews even something that the Avalanche should pursue?
I don't know. I mean, when you consider it, I guess for a lot of us armchair GMs, like how much do you value that face-off stuff? Because he is the number 1 face-off person in the league. And we
Horrible on face-off.
Came on my way home, and oh my god, it's just we just lose every face-off. It's you feel like you could accidentally win more than I don't know. It's weird, especially when you know that they had put in so much work into face-offs last year. It's mind-blowing because McKinnon is good at literally everything else. It just seems so odd.
Yep.
That
I don't know. Do you rent him out? Do you rent him for what? 30-some games the rest of the season in hopes? And remember, hopefully we're going to get back a Landeskog and a Makar, and and a Manson. So do we really need to go on that limb?
Even worth it? Yeah,
exactly. Do we need to do that?
I think that the defense might need to be the focus.
Basically,
it's possible.
So basically, if they're even considering this, then someone in that facility, that building, naming the GM, is feeling desperate, and that bothers me big time. Because if we're that desperate, then there's some underlying issues we as fans may not know about.
Well, and it just seems like we never go for what everyone expects us to. So I feel like all the Tays talk might.
That's also true.
Like when we came out with Lehkonen, it was like, what? Like Lehkonen, it was such a bizarre. It seemed like everything that we signed. And I don't know, maybe the depths of the smarter people discussions. Cogliano was, just all of these things were so, and they all worked out. We are basically, we have knocked it out of the park consistently with our acquisitions at the trade deadline. So it's going to come out that like something so off the wall that you just couldn't.
That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah.
I don't know.
But then again, last year I think we were right up until the bitter end for the Giroux sweepstakes.
Thank God.
So, and boy, didn't that pan out. So maybe this is another one where we just play kind of, coy, like, oh, we were totally going to grab him. Oh, darn. And then we grabbed some other second line centerman that's, way cheaper than Taves, but he does great for depth. And, who knows? But definitely good question, Allie, that you bring up because deadline is coming up next month, So
you gotta wonder what they know about injuries as they make these decisions because we definitely don't know. We've got Nichushkin who is perpetually hurt. Who knows? It's always something. It's not this. Don't worry about this. Erod took a puck to the face the other day, but apparently he's all good. It's just it's hard to even know like what your team actually sits at, and they have a better idea. So I'm sure that they obviously have a better idea.
I just had a thought real quick. With Avalanche sitting in third place, are we a Cale Makar, a Gabriel Landeskog, and one other player that may be injured like a Manson? Are we 1, 2, or 3 of those players away from being extremely solid in the playoffs? Because if we make the playoffs and those guys come back, in my opinion, we are right back where we were last year.
With true help. And that's what's maddening about this is I truly believe if we could ice even a relatively healthy lineup at any given time, we're constantly in this cycle of like, this guy's half hurt, this guy's practically dead, these guys are healthy. This
practically dead.
If we could just be somewhere a little more.
It's that once every 10 minutes heartbeat.
No doubt about it. And that's what I was so looking forward to, just kicking Boston's ass if we could play them.
Hello, we still on? Hello? Oh, just checking.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that. And that's what's so maddening about people, giving up on Georgie and just basically packing in for the summer. Let's just get ready for next year. And it's like, we got to click at the right time and we're running out of runway. Yep. But if we can figure it out here in the next few weeks, use that trade deadline, bulk it up. It sounds like they're not pushing Gabe any faster than he needs to go, which is smart. It still makes me wonder why we didn't LTIR him and just straight up Kucherov it, but they get paid the millions and I don't. So I have so much faith in this team, and it's nice to see that JoJo has been playing very well in the AHL because at this point I assume that Frankie is made out of glass.
Sure seems like it.
Hand blown glass. It's I just don't even understand. It's like these little injuries come out of nowhere. I don't know.
It does. It's weird little tweaky things that he gets. That's just bizarre. But to answer your question, Bill, I would also say as soon as they could, if they get to the playoffs, I think absolutely it's a whole different team. And I think they can make a deep run, no problem. the question right now is, can they even sustain their playoff position that they currently have? They have been in and out for like the last 4 weeks. And it's just like, you're so set from what was last season where it's like you had the whole West sealed by November. Like it was ridiculous how amazing you were in that Western Conference last year, and you had every signed, sealed, and delivered, and you just didn't have the President's Trophy because Florida also had a really good season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's just like with all these streaks and stuff, it's just keeping the playoff spot just seems like almost a dead impossible mission to do just in and of itself. But I think if you can, and you play your numbers right, you can kind of do what Tampa has done, where they don't have maybe the greatest of seasons, but they do enough to solidify themselves in a playoff spot and then run rampant. Mm-hmm. If they can do that, I think we should be okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, okay, let's move into the next segment then. So we got ourselves 4 games on the docket this week.
Only one's
First
home.
One. Yep. So I believe that one's home. That one, I think maybe only one of them is home. You might be right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, no, 2 of them are home. Yeah, 2 of them. The Edmonton game on Sunday.
Oh, Edmonton, yeah.
Okay, so first up, Tampa Bay. We just saw these losers, and we need to win this game. We need to punch back harder than they gave us the socking to us. Yeah. So the three keys to the game I have on this one are: first, hit me with your best shot because you did already. This is a reciprocation, kind of like what I just said. They gave us they just pummeled us, no ifs, ands, or buts. And it's time for us to do the same. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We might not have a full crew. We might not have, whatever. But with the players that we did have, right, against Tampa, game 2 is what I'm thinking of in that Stanley Cup final where we blanked them 7-0. That's what I want to see tomorrow. Yeah. I want to see a 7-0 just massacring of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that would make me feel a lot better.
So here's a question for you. Do you guys think, should we be playing JoJo in the Tampa game and considered it maybe kind of a scheduled loss because the next day we play the Wild and we have to beat the Wild?
Because it's a divisional?
What do you do for goalies?
I would say yes. We need to play Johansson, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is we got to give him that experience back up into the NHL level.
Yeah. I mean, he played with us in the playoffs in the second round against Dallas. I mean,
absolutely. We need to get him. I don't want a loss. I don't care if it's scheduled. I don't care if it's. I don't want a loss. Period. But
I mean, it's not a guarantee that we'll lose with him. But do we prioritize?
Well, because you never know who Tampa will be playing. Maybe they're like, yeah, we don't want to play Vasilevsky this time.
Yeah, but see, if we play Johansson, he is going to be up for this game. He knows who Tampa Bay is, and he is going to bring his best goalie game ever, in my opinion. So let's play him. Let's hope for the best. And I don't know what your second key to the game is there, Nick. But my thing is we need to fire.
Yeah.
Shoot at the puck. I mean, shoot the puck at the net over and over and over. Period. And play defense like you've never played defense all year.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that statement. Would I play Johansson though? That is, I totally see where you guys are coming from, and I absolutely
you just
agree.
play Georgie in both.
Ooh,
it's a tall order.
As a goalie who likes when you get feeling hot and you're feeling hot,
because and that's just
it. He's been this way. He's been like this.
Well, because that's the question: is what if he catches, no pun intended, lightning in a bottle?
Oh,
and he's Georgiev.
Huh?
Yeah. If he catches lightning in a bottle and he just plays a phenomenal game, I have no reason to believe that he couldn't ride that into the Minnesota game and play super hot-handed as well.
He has just
but the problem is it's a tough thing you're asking for because it's like Minnesota, that's a 4-point shift, being a divisional game. So
but here's the thing. Other than I'm sorry to interject here, Nick.
No, you're good.
Here's the other thing. He being Georgiev, he just lost to Tampa Bay 5-0. He may come back and say, "Okay, I want revenge," or he could still be in that Tampa Bay funk. We don't know what guy we're going to get.
We don't.
I think he feeds greatly off of being put down. He comes out harder, like the game against the Rangers. I think he's one of those guys who thrives off the negativity and comes, which I'm like the polar opposite. There's a lot of goalies. You can tell Jack Campbell cannot deal with having his ass kicked and coming out. There's certain goalies, and I think those Russians, man, they take grudges tightly, and they do. I think that he could lose it tomorrow. But we also have a goal to win, even if he lets exactly 0 in.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So it kind of depends as well as if the offense can get their stuff together.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation between
I will officially mark myself as present for this question. I will not officially give it an answer because it's a tough one.
I don't know. I think I would let him play both. And if he shits the bed during time, then put him in for
maybe.
I don't know.
But I definitely can see both of those being a good choice, right? I don't know.
It'll be interesting to find out tomorrow.
We'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. Okay, point number 2 in the Tampa Bay game. Comebacks make a great story. And this was kind of like what we were saying. Play mad. Play, not mad to the point where you make stupid, boneheaded penalties mad, but to a point where you are playing with what you said earlier today, Bill, urgency, right? They blanked you and they embarrassed you on national television, right? You have to come back and punch back, and even if it's an absolute blowout, if it's you win by 1, whatever it is, overtime, I don't care, just win the game and complete that comeback, right? Because it was a very short span between their game and this game, so. Comebacks do make a great story, and again, I'd be a very happy man if that happened. I should preface, I want them to be ahead the entire game. I don't want to have to come back, but the comeback I'm referring to is they hit us, we hit them.
Yeah.
Okay, key number 3, and this one was the most apparent in that game 2 of the Stanley Cup final. Key to the game number 3. Draw out frustration. When Tampa plays frustrated, they are not a very good team.
Right.
They really aren't. They give up these boneheaded penalties, more specifically to Pat Maroon, and Kucherov and stuff like that. They will just do stupid things, and you have a little bit of that in St. Louis last year as well. It's just if you make them play frustrated, you tend to have a better opportunity to go on the power play, have better puck possession, better zone entries, stuff like that. So if I feel like if you could do that, you have a very good shot, a much better shot to win the game.
Oh, I agree.
LOC does that. Pat Maroon has got a big thing for LOC, man. Was that McDermott came out to fight him with like 8 seconds left, but Maroon was like, no, I want that little Logan O'Connor guy over there. That's who he's picking out to put. Logan O'Connor must talk some serious crap. Serious crap. Because that felt like it was lingering.
To back it up.
Yeah.
So anything else for you guys to add in this Lightning game before I go on to Minnesota?
No.
To me, it's a must win.
Yeah.
And I say must win because not only did we get embarrassed, and I mean seriously embarrassed on national TV 5-0 to a team that we beat in the Stanley Cup not that long ago.
Yeah.
So this to me is a must win. 2 reasons. One,
for personal
smack
reasons.
them. Yeah, exactly. Smack them in the mouth and say, hey, you're messing with the big dogs now. Okay. You're messing with us again.
Yep.
Second of all, because we need the 2 points. We cannot afford to keep losing these games. And it doesn't get any easier, guys. It doesn't get any easier the closer we get to the end of the season. It's a must win. We're at home. Our fans need to be on fire, electric, boisterous, and they need to bring the thunder. And I'm not talking about lightning and thunder. I'm talking about the thunder of
just the thunder
of the Avalanche fans.
They'll bring the lightning. We bring the thunder.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. Okay, moving on. So that Tampa game is tomorrow. Then after that, it's a back-to-back, like we were just discussing. So Wednesday.
That's ridiculous. So ridiculous.
And it's a home and away back-to-back. Oh, it's bizarre. Yeah. This one's at Minnesota. This is a divisional game, like we said. So key to the game number 1 for me is shake off any dust you have. You need to be a polished and a well-oiled machine for this game. If I'm not mistaken, the last time that occurred, that we played them,
that we
It
played
was
well.
right toward the beginning of the season, wasn't
Yeah, I
it?
was gonna
And
say
we
that was
won,
quite a
we
while
won that
ago.
game
Yeah.
6-3. And but that was because in this particular game, we kept our foot on the gas the entire time. A full 60 minutes, nonstop. Just because we had a lead, we played like we didn't. And that was what I enjoyed, is because they had that sense of urgency to play, the full 60 minutes. So that would be my key to the game. Number one is shake off any dust you have, be a well-oiled machine, no mistakes, right? Because Minnesota is a team that really loves to make you make mistakes, and they're a hard-hitting team. They're not too fast-paced, but they will strong arm you if they give them the chance. Question two. Key to the game number two is wild or mild. Again, this is a team that has been pretty similar to the Avalanche, where they have had really hot streaks, really low streaks, really hot streaks, really low streaks. Who are you getting? What goalie are you getting? What type of goalie are you getting? Is he on a hot streak? Is he not? Depending on who you get, you should, first of all, you should play 100% regardless. But do you have to play tougher, or do you have to play faster, I guess, is more the team? Because if it's the Wild, you have to play tougher. If it's the Mild, you just outskate them, and you should be just fine. What are your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Britt. You can go first.
I think a lot of it's going to come down to shutting down Kaprizov. I mean, sometimes it feels like that essentially is their team, and Fleury has not been playing poorly. So I'm curious to see who will be playing tomorrow. Like, one minute they hate Fleury and he's washed up, and the next minute he's Fleury again. So yeah, I'm curious as to what they show up with, because it basically is, you just don't. They've had more streaks than us, I think, this year. So and the fact that it's basically been declared that they're going all in for cup run is like, oh, I'm glad you feel so good about yourself, because they're not on my radar, but they're one of those teams that really kind of has our number a lot of the time, regardless of how good or bad they are that particular time or year. Yeah.
The thing about the Wild that bothers me, they don't really scare me, but they're kind of like that proverbial gnat that just keeps coming around and keeps shooing it away, and it keeps coming back. The Wild is that. I mean, they're the Achilles heel, or Achilles plague in our heel. They're constantly there. They're buzzing around. They're right behind us in the standings. This is a must game. I say, I don't care what team comes out, Wild or Mild. Hit them hard. Put the foot on the gas. Put the foot on their throat, and don't give in. Yeah. And that's the problem with the Avalanche. They get a lead like they did against Florida, and they let off the gas. You cannot do this.
Exactly.
Especially when we're setting a tone for a possible matchup in the playoffs.
Yep. Exactly. So I don't care. Get rid of that gnat, squash it down, slam them into the boards, do whatever you have to do. Don't be stupid, like Nick said, and take dumb penalties, but come out and play aggressive, play hard, play meaningful. This is a division game. This is a 4-point, like you said, a 4-point swing. And we need the 2 points. We need to start making a move.
Yep. I absolutely agree with what both of you guys said.
Well, they're desperate. I mean, after this year, their cap crunch, they're gonna have them by the throat. So this is
their time, and they're gonna for sure hit us with as much as firepower as they can muster.
Yep.
And speaking of, the third key to the game that I have here is we are an NHL team. This should be no surprise to anybody in this room, of course, but it seems that, and the only reason I say that is this game is nationally televised on TNT.
Oh, it is.
It seems like with those types of games, we just seem to not do very well. Namely the one on, not too long ago, where we were just absolutely embarrassed. So it seems like when there's more eyes, we have to prove that we are of an NHL caliber. You know what I mean? We have to, just like what Bill, you were just saying, full 60 minutes. Don't let off the gas. You need to prove this is what these Stanley Cup, the defending Stanley Cup champions can do, especially against a divisional opponent. So that's my third key to the game is just because you're on national television, doesn't matter. Play Avalanche hockey, the one we know you are capable of playing, and it's just that, you know, just play as an NHL caliber team, because right now they have, you know, their losses, they have not been playing to that caliber, I don't think.
Absolutely. I don't know, Britt, what do you say to that?
No, I agree. It's I hate the Wild so much. They're perpetually mediocre, and yet somehow they beat us, and having them beat us is just a waste of a team, because, you know, they're just going to go on to get beat. They're just, they're waste of space.
She carries a personal vendetta, you see. She lives and grew up in Wild territory. So she's kind of that bird from the flock type thing, you know.
Got it.
So personal reasons, of course.
And I just,
well, that's good.
They're just so on the verge of just crumbling. I mean, I love Fleury, but he's old, and just Kaprizov. I mean, they're just finicky right now. And if we could make a point now and just remind them, like, this is not your year to win the cup. Don't go wasting all your shit. Like, you guys know.
Britt, you being a hockey player, the insight question I have is this: in your opinion, why do you think the Avalanche play down to their opponents as opposed to playing up? I don't understand. I don't get it, and I don't know if it's something that's. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's really hard. It's not something that you do consciously, and so and I don't know if a lot of that comes down to the lack of Gabriel Landeskog, but I do think a lot of that comes down to the lack of veteran, mentally tough people, because it takes a lot to continue that pressure when it's not dire. So it may be like a maturity thing, or it may be a lack of leadership thing. I genuinely don't believe that Bednar is a coach that gives big, huge speeches and yells and gives them the motivation. I think that they are a self-motivated
team govern itself.
Yes, I do think that it's very self-governing. And I think that there are, you know, I think the loss of Kadri, they're hopefully finding some new people to take those roles. And hopefully if they can get a little bit of runway with some normalcy, they can figure out who's going to fill these new roles. But I do think it is a self-governing locker room, and they need to figure out who's going to lead that train. And you see glimpses of that from Newhook, and I think that Nieto, I don't think that he's a loud leader, but I think he busts his butt, and that's contagious, because you look stupid if you're not working as hard as that third line grinder getting paid freaking $750,000 to score 2 goals in his first however many games back. You look dumb if you're Rantanen and you're not busting your balls as hard as that guy who's making nothing, especially when you've got a new contract coming up in 2 years and people are already like, well, what are, you know? So yeah, I think that hopefully they'll figure that out, because I just really think it's all mental. And I think that Gabe coming back will help that a lot too, because he leads a lot by example. Gabe's not one to take a game off.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, third game out of the 4 here, St. Louis. We all know that I have a personal hatred for this team. That's no secret. Mostly because of the family feud that ensues between me and my brother.
Even St. Louis at this point.
That's right. 3 keys to the game here, and I'll do these ones pretty quick. Because they're all pretty straightforward. The first one is the mean green fighting machine. Now, granted, the Avalanche colors are in fact maroon and blue, but you understand what I mean. Is you have to, I guess, green is down to earth is where I was trying to go with this one. Mean green, down to earth, because these guys are a very down to earth team. They play hockey in its purest form, and what's purest form was tough, physical. You know, they hit you. And they don't care if they hit you. They'll take as many penalty minutes as it takes to get it through your head. They'll injure you if they get the chance. So mean green fight machine. I would say don't injure, don't do any dumb penalties, but you have to hold your own against this team. That is the biggest thing, at least as far as recent history shows. If you can out-muscle them or just show as much muscle as them, the goals tend to kind of figure themselves out. It's a very weird thing to say, but it's kind of true, you know. So definitely,
especially the loss of Perron has made our lives substantially easier playing against the Blues.
I personally can't stand St. Louis because I can't stand the attitude that those players have. They are basically, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to knock you out of this game. Take the penalty. I don't care if it's a 5-minute penalty, whatever. I'm taking you out. And I can't stand that type of mentality in any sport. Yeah. And that's why I absolutely detest St. Louis. And I hope we beat the out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're definitely one of the bigger representations of like old time hockey that's left.
Old
like
school, very old school.
Yeah, but it's not for today's game.
Oh, it absolutely isn't. I absolutely agree.
That's what you've got, like the Bruins who have been able to take that and adapt it, and they've embraced that in a new age way. But you can see that St. Louis, it's falling out of favor and out of favor with the league, and it's not working. And frankly, I wish we played them a little bit later, because I think they're going to start selling all their crap here. It's going to be a St. Louis garage sale shortly.
It's quite possible.
I love seeing the downfall for them. I really do.
Oh, we often go and get ice cream every time we beat the Blues. Like, it's a celebration.
I'm here for a St. Louis rebuild to just beat the crap out of them for a couple of years.
Exactly.
I keep my brother in check anytime we play each other, because he'll dish it just as much. If we lose to them, he'll dish it just as much too, because he's St. Louis for life. But
and
anyway,
I think they're short O'Reilly. So
what's that?
I think they're short O'Reilly also at this point.
I believe they are. I believe that is correct. Key to the game number 2 for St. Louis, I just labeled overtime. Not the score, the work. You have to put in extra work. And what I mean by that is, for example, we just saw this where the Panthers tied the game up 2-2. We had to put in that extra work, that extra oomph to immediately kill that momentum, whatever they had, and then go up a goal, go up another, all that kind of stuff. So you have to put in extra overtime. If, the game is not over and immediately considered we're going to lose, if they do come back to 2 goals, right? Whatever it is. Yeah. It's about killing that momentum, putting in your personal effort as a skater to take away momentum if they ever get it. Right? So that's another big thing again, it's a divisional game. So this one you're going to have to put in even more because of that 4-point swing. But that would be my second key to the game is putting in personal overtime.
Yep.
I agree.
Very good. Okay, key to the game number 3 is just called Binnington. We tend to.
Okay, real quick before you get into this, the reason why I did that, did you see when he went over in the game in Colorado? And he went to the bench, and that fan sitting there going like that. Yeah, and he just turns his back. What a baby. Anyways, I just had to get that off my chest.
And that was one of my favorite things was Georgiev was ready to drop.
Oh, he was ready to duke it. Oh yeah,
oh, he was ready to drop him. He was sitting there center ice saying, "Binnington, you come here!" Like, oh. And I would have absolutely have loved to see Binnington just pummel his face in.
That's the whole old school that we want.
That's an old school hockey I can get behind. Anyway, so this one, it seems like Binnington always gives you his playoff Binnington when it's against the Colorado Avalanche. He's a tough man to crack, and seems like it's just against the Avalanche.
Well, of course,
the Blues just recently went to overtime with the Coyotes, right? And if it weren't for a lucky little goal there, they probably would have lost that game.
I'm curious if they want to put Binnington in, because it didn't work last time.
You never know, right?
So if we do, Rooney on us.
Yep. If we do, crack that man as fast as you can. This can't be one where he makes one good save and all of a sudden he's standing on his head the rest of the game. You have to. I mean, like one shot, one goal type stuff. You have to crack him and fast.
All it takes is one quick goal, and he's out of his mind.
Yeah, we need to have some guys crashing the net, deflecting the puck, just causing havoc in front of Binnington. Because if we don't, and like you said, he gets better with age. In other words, not age as far as years, age as far as through the game. He gets better as the game gets older, and we can't have that, because if that were to happen,
more secure or more angry, and that's what.
So if we can score on him early, then he gets frustrated. And then he just makes dumb misses on easy, relatively easy shots. But if he is making his ridiculous saves like Vasilevsky was doing against the in the Tampa Bay game, then we're going to be in trouble. But We need to take this game. Absolutely need to take this game.
Yeah, this is a must win. I mean, to me, this needs to be a scheduled win. We should be
absolutely,
and we better beat them. There's no excuse to lose at this team at this point. Where they are,
because they are below us in the standings. Keep that in mind. They have had a very, very down year compared to how their standard has been. They've
essentially committed to being a selling team at the deadline. So
it sure seems like it. Yep, I agree. Okay, and then another back-to-back, except this one, instead of being home away, it's away home. It's just the schedule this week is really not falling in the Avalanche favor. But regardless, you have to play the games 100%. The second leg of that back-to-back is against Edmonton at home on Sunday. Another matinee, just like the St. Louis game will be. So the keys to the game I have for the Edmonton Oilers are keep them down while they're down. They have not played to their full caliber because they are offensively a masterclass. They are really good offensively. They have not been able to play to that standard when they play against us because we kind of hold that little Western Conference final carrot over their face, and it just drives them nuts. I love to see it. So that's kind of what they're going after, some kind of personal reasons. We just have to blow past it.
Yeah, I mean, they're down. And Campbell is playing.
Yep.
He figured it out. So we need to figure out how to score.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So it's if they're down, if you have a 2-goal lead, a 3-goal lead, or a 1-goal lead, I don't care what, keep them down. Yeah. Right. Because they have also kind of had those moments, very much like the Avalanche, where if they are down or if they gave up a lead or whatever, they just kind of call it quits. Yeah. You know, they also have a tough time maintaining a lead. Yeah. So I would say if you can, do it.
Yeah.
Key to the game number 2, strike oil. Probably self-serving for the name, but strike oil. The value you have in this type of a matchup, especially against a Pacific foe, who, might I add, they are also third in their division with a few more points than us. So you are playing up, technically speaking, to them. If you can find any value in this game, it is this: goaltending. Striking oil with your goalie. And that's kind of where I'm getting to. Georgiev, I'm assuming, will play this game. Now, who plays before in St. Louis, I don't know. I thought it was going to be Francouz before all that stuff happened, but I would like to see Georgiev play in this game.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those comeback games for him to have a massive confidence and just like an oil strike, just oozing out of him if he is able to just master class this game. So that's kind of where my second key to the game is going to be goalie play, because again, they're offensively just outrageously good. And if Georgiev can keep them to 0 or minimum goals and win the game pretty handedly and solidly, that is going to give him a confidence boost that hopefully should keep him now plateaued, and that is now his new low, so to speak.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, you guys?
I think that obviously goaltending is a key in all of these games. But when it comes down to an Edmonton team, like you said, their offense is incredible. If they're on a power play, that's even more dangerous. And the Avalanche have been suspect on their penalty killing. Not against Florida. They did really well against Florida. But against Tampa Bay and others before have been somewhat suspect. They can't have that against Edmonton. Edmonton is too good at their puck movement, too good at their shot setup. And the Avalanche cannot afford to be down in this game, especially at home. They cannot afford to be down.
Yep.
So, yes, goaltending has to be a must.
Yep. Britt, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with that. It's we are definitely going to need some goalies to steal some games for us through this stretch.
Yep.
Because you're going to need that in the playoffs too. So
Exactly. Last key to this game, and then we'll wrap it up here. But it's very simple: production versus production game. And that's just it. Is these guys, they know how to do that high wire flying offense where it's just an absolute barn burner, stuff like that. But the production, at least in my mind, not only does it come from the offense, it's how well your defense is holding up against said offenses. And that's because that's another production that a lot of people tend to forget is as defense, you two are producing in your own way. You're producing turnovers,
Especially
takeaway,
winning Colorado
hits,
Avalanche.
blocks. Exactly, right? And this is a team where we know they have that capability. Last year, our defense was phenomenal.
It was kind of depressing when they're like, Tays got his goal and it was like his 4th of the season. It was like, oh, geez.
Exactly. And we have a defense that can score. I mean, the core of that defense didn't change too much.
Factor for us last year, but we just haven't had the offense for them to take the liberties to be able to do that. So it's just that's part of those, cyclical issues that we don't have an offense that we can trust to cover for the defense, so the defense can't score and the offense can't score either. So eventually it'll all come together.
Right. That's exactly right.
What I see, my point, what I see as far as the offense goes, they need to quit trying to make the perfect pass, the perfect setup. Just shoot the puck. If you don't shoot the puck on net, you can't score. Quit trying to make the perfect pass down low, in the slot, whatever it is. Just shoot the puck. And we saw that against Florida, and it worked. I mean, it's like magic. You shoot the puck, it goes in. So
lo and behold.
Exactly.
Yep, absolutely. So those are the keys to the game for the 4 upcoming games. It's 2 sets of back-to-backs. I mean, that's just
crazy.
I want to just talk with the season scheduler, and I just want to have some words with him, kind of see what's going on.
Especially at home and aways. That's just blows my mind that's even a thing. You can't tell me that you can't figure that out, how to not do that.
I don't know, but in either sense, I think the Avalanche are up for the challenge. And like I said, if we get away with a clean sweep of the week, that's 8 points in our favor, 2 of which are 4-point swings. That is a massive week, a very good statement week. So hopefully the Avs pick up whatever pieces they were missing, get it together, and tomorrow, if they just blow the doors off of Tampa, the rest of the week should be.
I was just going to say
a very achievable week.
I was just going to say tomorrow night's game is going to be the swing game, in my opinion. If we lose this game to Tampa Bay, and if we lose it ugly, then they're going to be on their heels, so to speak.
Everybody's going to know with them coming in. They just got that.
Because it takes a lot to have to come back to games like that, like
especially
Tampa to Florida. Like Tampa to Florida, that we were fortunate to be able to just put that behind them and move on to the next game and win, right? But to do it again, it's no easy feat. Just exactly what you guys were saying. So it'll definitely be interesting.
And if you got to get on that plane right after a hard loss,
I know.
Tampa Bay,
especially for 4 emotionally driven games. These are all teams with meanings and histories. Every single one of them. Like it's like a. Going to be
there are personal vendettas in each of these games.
Oh, absolutely. No, I totally agree. Tomorrow's a swing game, so let's get that win.
Let's get 4 wins this week. I'm hopeful for it. Well, thank you everybody for watching the Cluster Puck podcast, part of the MHRT network. Again, a little call sign here. If you like what you saw here, don't forget to follow the MHRT network on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can be notified when shows like Cluster Puck, like Broncos Breakdown, which if you haven't, by the way, I strongly recommend checking him out. Man is emotions, full emotions, and it's pure, and it is beautiful. So check out Broncos Breakdown as well. Follow the show so you can get notified for all of the shows on the network. We love having you guys here. Love having your feedback, your participation. You guys are wonderful. If you like us specifically, you can follow us at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter and Instagram, and the Cluster Puck podcast on Facebook. Anything to add, my friends?
No.
Go for it, Britt. Nothing?
No,
okay.
I just hope to come back not really, really depressed next week.
Very good. Well, from all of us here at the Cluster Puck podcast, and from Bill, myself, Britt, thanks once again. We'll see you next week, and go Avs go.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
'Cause this party is over.